Hello, welcome back to another episode of Talkoffamepod podcast with your host, Kylie Montigny. Today's episode is very exciting because we are joined by the host of The Brave Table and author of That Sells Now What, Neeta Bhushan. We will discuss her podcast, her book, Evaluating Your Life, and much more coming up on the Talkoffamepod podcast. Thanks so much, Neeta. I'm super excited to have you on.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited to be here. Glad we're doing this.
Yeah, I know it's been a long time coming. I am so happy me and you were able to find a time to chat and get it done.
I know, me too.
Mhm. Yeah, so how do you think stigma and kind of shame has kind of kept people from sharing their stories of life and personal experiences?
Yeah, I think that, shame is one of the most fundamental roadblocks to us in truly living our potential. And shame is an emotion that we feel if we are thinking that we have to keep something a secret or thinking that, something that we've gone through, it wasn't something that we're proud of or that it will be accepted or that we will be judged for our actions. And, at the end of the day, and even thinking back in my own stories and how I've lived through certain shameful things like being in a toxic and abusive relationship. I did not want anybody to know. But as soon as I actually started letting people in on the person that I had dated, and also started to see and take ownership in terms of what I really desired in that sort of relationship, that's how I was able to drop any sort of shame story that we kind of perceive and start to actually look into how other people can benefit from that. Because in me sharing my own story, I could inspire other women who were actually going through the same thing or other girls that were going through the same thing and start normalizing what we feel that is so secretive. And it's sometimes through that pain, sometimes through that shame, that we can actually look around and say, I'm not the only person going through this, which
Mm-hmm.
is why I love that, we can even share our stories online and on social media. We didn't really have that growing up. And so, because we didn't really have that growing up, or, my generation didn't really have that, it was often very much that you felt so isolated. And now at least, you're scrolling through something, you're reading something, you're seeing a video about something, and you're like, hey, I'm not the only one that's actually feeling sad or depressed or lonely or rejected or judged or afraid that somebody else is talking about me. Like, these are pretty normal things that we all go through. And I think the more that we talk about it, it actually lessens and releases the shame.
For sure. I totally agree with that because no matter if you're in an abusive relationship, anxiety, depression, I know a lot of people oftentimes do not like to talk about it because they're like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna be judged, no one should know about this, or just afraid of asking kind of for help in terms of what they're feeling. I have grew up with anxiety and depression, and I was afraid that if I actually told people besides the people that is my immediate family, I was afraid I was gonna get judged for it, or people kind of would see me a different way than I was. It's just even though it was a difficult time, and I wanted to talk about it to people and seek help and get advice from people. It was just I'm afraid that they're gonna see me a different way than I was, and they do things that all my life to in case something's oh, how's your anxiety doing, how's your depression doing, those type of questions. It's just people will probably know, as an example, me as an anxiety girl, as an example, if you speak up about it. But even though if you speak up on your platform or just your family or friends, or if you are on social media, just post on social media, be like, hey, this is what I'm going through, many people will reach out to you. For me, I receive dozens of messages about anxiety, depression, and stuff like that. And it's that's honestly the best part about it is that he just shows that like you're not alone in this journey. You're not alone. You're not the only person that's suffered through this. Like everyone goes through different things and similar things to what we go through.
It's so true. It's that shared commonality and it's that shared human experience that at some point, if not today, maybe at some point, you will experience feelings of anxiety. You will experience feelings of depression. You will experience feelings of loneliness. You will experience feelings of rejection. And that it is part of the human experience to also feel its opposite, to also feel the joy, to also feel the love, to also feel and experience the acceptance, to also feel and experience the belonging and the excitement, and that it's what makes us human at the end of the day.
For sure. And like as you kind of mentioned earlier, like you were in an abusive relationship and experienced like abuse, domestic violence, or whatever you kind of like want to like describe it. Like how did that kind of experience in your life in that relationship kind of change you or kind of impacted you kind of to speak up about it?
Well, I think, to your point, I think in the beginning I was definitely ashamed. I was ashamed because I thought, hey, I know better. Somebody, my parents would always tell me, to be weary about those kinds of men and those kinds of guys, to walk
Mhm.
away, right? And I think that when
Yeah.
you're in it, many times in the beginning, I made excuses for that person. And many times in the beginning, I chose to look a different way, chose because I wanted to, in my own right, I wanted to fix that other person. I thought I could be the martyr, the savior, the fixer. And many times it is when, personalities like myself, I'm a giver, I'm a nurturer. That's just how I am as a human. And, will attract a partnership that is a little bit codependent, or you will attract that sort of person that is narcissistic. And I think that, you know, there has to be an awareness of where you are at. And I think that awareness for me didn't come right away. It actually didn't
Mhm.
come, even though the red flags were there, because for me, there were other variables. I was trying to, again, fix, and I was trying to say, hey, let me give this person another chance. And I think that for young people, if they are going through a breakup, a realization that somebody is showing you who they really are, believe them. And I think also to be able to recognize that if you are in a dark situation, if you are not being respected, if you are not being heard, if you are not being validated, if you can't even share your own truth, then there's probably something wrong in that container. There's probably something wrong in that relationship. And so I think for me, things had to get so bad, unfortunately, for me to actually say, this is not right. I have to get out. I have to leave. And I have to actually let people in because I was carrying a really big secret. I didn't want anybody to know the real truth of what I was sitting in. And what I was sitting in was a lot of pain and a lot of fear and a lot of shame that I had gotten myself into that relationship or into a relationship like that. And it would take even years after to finally forgive myself and actually do the work underneath all of the fear and sadness and loss to say, hey, actually, wow, I attracted that kind of partner so that I can learn how to love myself and how to reclaim my power back to myself.
For sure. That like self-love is such a big thing, even though you're in a relationship, like even when you're not in a relationship, you're just getting out of a relationship, like you are still trying to figure out like what should I do? Like how do I get out of this relationship if this person's giving me red flags? Or how does this person make me feel when I'm with them? Like you just need to realize like no matter how long you're with them, even like a month, couple of months, years, and you just need to realize, like, is this person actually what I want? Is this person actually giving me red flags, or is this person treating me right to stay in this relationship?
Right. Is this person treating me well? I think that's the big thing. And I think often when we are looking for love so badly, when we are looking to be accepted so badly, and this happens even with friendships, right? Some of our friendships can be toxic.
Mm-hmm.
They may not respect you. They may make fun of you and make fun of you in not a nice way, not in a joking way, or they may talk behind your back, right? Are those indications of good friendships? Are they indications of people that support you, that want the best for you, that celebrate your highs, that celebrate and want to celebrate your wins with you, that don't get jealous, but actually support you in the process? Well, the same thing goes for a love relationship. Are they celebrating you? Are they encouraging you? Are they saying, oh my gosh, amazing? Or are they trying to put you down? Are they trying to make you feel less than? Are they trying to judge you for your actions? Because if they are not accepting you for who you are, that in and of itself is a major red flag.
For sure. And like you wrote a book called That Sucks, Now What? Like that helps to motivate women in abusive relationships to go to get help. Like how did kind of your experience? Oh my God, you had the book in front of you. Oh my God, I love the cover. Cover's so cute.
Thank you. Yeah.
Like how did like kind of your experience with being in an abusive relationship kind of help you or inspire you to write this book?
Well, I mean, that was a really big sucky moment to actually be in that sort of relationship and then to come out on the other side and recognize that I had my own work to do, that it wasn't just the person that I was with. It wasn't just that person's fault. For me, it was my choosing. I chose that
Mhm.
partner. I chose that partner to teach me something. At the time, I did not know what I was learning, but I think that, was that was my magical moment. And I talk about in part one of the book, the magical moment that sucked. And that was the magical moment that sucked, that really allowed me to unpack a lot of my loss, a lot of my grief, having lost both of my parents before I was 19 and my brother. It had me go into a very different time in my life where I was just lost and I wanted love and I wanted to recreate a family that I had lost. So I would hold on to relationships that were not healthy and that actually would prompt me and inspire me to start healing that side and start to really grieve and start to really understand and make peace with my own loss, to actually accept myself. And I think the biggest thing was to date myself, to actually
Mhm.
celebrate myself, to love myself, which included figuring out what my favorite color was, figuring out what I like to do by myself on the weekends without anybody. And that inspired this journey of wanting to bring together all of the tools that I learned along the way, from sitting with different types of teachers, sitting with different types of therapists, different types of therapies, different types of healing modalities that took me around the world to 45 different countries.
Mhm.
And it allowed me to arrive at a few different frameworks and tools to help others so that when they're going through their sucky moments, it doesn't have to suck as hard. And
Mhm.
that if you are in a sucky moment right now, if you're feeling anxiety, depression, sadness, grief, loss, heartbreak, that there are tools, especially in this book. If you go to thatsuckednowwhat.com, that you can actually start to use for your own self healing journey.
Ooh, I'll definitely check that out now. I'm definitely gonna use that. So, like once I got this interview. But you are the host of the Brave Table that is unfiltered conversation about all the unpredictable and predictable moments we face on our journey through life, the raw, the real, the messy, and how to overcome them and thrive. Like, what type of topics or conversations do you discuss like on solo episodes or guests like people being a guest speaker or whatever you want to call it like what
Yeah,
kind
we
of
talk
topics do
about
you discuss?
we talk about brave conversations and brave conversations to help you take brave actions and have more brave conversations in your life and to actually be more brave in your life. We talk a lot about building resilience and actually establishing boundaries, all across experts in mental health, emotional health, and mental well being.
That's amazing. Like, how has the podcast and having these conversations kind of helped you kind of use your voice and like your experiences for like your life? Like, you're from such Chicago and you had like a dentist thing, right?
Yeah, I was a dentist before, and I think that just knowing what my superpower is, being able to connect with people, being able to bring people together, I think that has been such a core value for me. And now I get to do that on the Brave Table, which bringing people together, make them feel seen, make them feel heard, make them feel um loved. And I think that that is a gift that I get to practice every time I'm having a conversation.
So true. Like, do you do like interviews on Zoom, like on virtual, or you do like interviews on a like in person type of thing?
So I'm now starting to do them in person because now we have a studio in Austin.
That's amazing. Do you like doing it in person, or you rather kind of do like virtual?
I really enjoy the in person because I feel like you get to experience somebody's energy when you're having conversations with them. I mean, virtual is great too, but I think there's just a different essence when they're in the same room with you.
Yeah, that's actually so true because like, even though like, you do interviews online, like we're doing right now, like even though you're doing not like face to face, but like kind of like connecting through screen, but then like I feel like if you do the interview in person, it feels kind of more of a connection in interview. And I feel like more interviews are kind of better when you do it in person, I think.
Totally. Totally.
And like I wanted to ask you, like, how do like you evaluate your life? Like how can you like face different obstacles and make your life better when you're struggling? Like I kind of wanted to ask you for about that.
Yeah. So, well, the first thing is, anybody that's going through a struggle, my biggest ask would be either listen to the Brave Table. We drop episodes twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays. And it's, my give to help somebody that's going through a tough time to overcome their anxieties, to overcome their hardships and setbacks and challenges. But I think the other thing, if you're ready to invest in yourself, would be to get the book, That Sucked Now What? And you can go to thatsuckednowwhat.com. I actually have a 44-page digital guidebook that you get for free and I have a picture of it here, when you actually get the book. And it's basically a whole journal that goes through how to sit in the suck, how to actually embrace the suck, and how to actually move through the sucky moments. Because most of the time we want to avoid it, we want to uh distract ourselves, numb ourselves. But I think what we really need to do is invite it in so that we can
Mhm.
process it and so we can let it go.
For sure. I guess like I feel like when you are going through something, it's like it rather kind of write down your feelings about what you're feeling. Like that's what I learned. It's like journal what you're feeling. Like even though you feel like you sometimes people feel like, oh, I don't have anyone to talk to or I don't feel supported or I feel like I'm gonna get judged when I talk about it, but the best thing to do if you really want to get it out, because I know sometimes for me, when I'm angry, I always kind of want to talk about it and just let out my anger rather than
True.
keep it in, because that's the best thing to do when you're angry or like upset and want to talk about it. Because I remember one time I was in a horrible mood. I had some bad day. I literally ranted to my parents and I literally felt so good. But like even though sometimes like you don't want to um talk about it. You can always write down what you're feeling. So you're like, hey, I'm upset. Why am I upset? Like just write down all your feelings. That's your point of workbooks like yours is not like just write down what you're feeling. Just even though you can't really explain it, the only person that can explain it is you. Like the only person that really knows how they're feeling is you.
Well, I'll give you a 3-second tool for anybody that's listening. Anytime you have an explosive reaction or emotion, what you can do is actually take your hand, put it over your heart. And because that is an indication that you got yourself, that's an indication to slow down. That's an indication where it sends, brain chemicals to your brain to activate your rest and digest. Because when you're reacting, when you have a physical response, when you are like, oh my gosh, I'm going to blow up at this person, I'm going to do something, you are in primal brain mode. You are in flight, fight, or freeze. And so one of the ways to calm your nervous system down is to put your hand over your heart. And what that's doing is signaling, okay, I'm going to calm my nervous system, but you can actually say a mantra, I got this. And then you can actually identify after taking a deep breath. So put your hand over your heart, take a deep breath, and actually identify the emotion that you're feeling. I am feeling really scared right now. I'm feeling really upset right now that you said that. I am feeling really triggered right now that you have just did this, or maybe it's a text message. I'm feeling really stressed right now. To just say it out loud and to identify what you're feeling sometimes releases the pressure off, and it releases you from overreacting into, oh, okay, I notice what I'm doing again. I'm fidgeting my legs. I'm moving back and forth. I'm pacing. My heart is racing, but I can actually calm myself down by taking a moment to just breathe. And when we, like you said, we can actually journal out our feelings, but sometimes in the heat of the moment, all we have is ourselves. And we can just simply identify the emotion, name the emotion, say it out loud, and then basically have your hand over your heart so that you can direct 3 deep breaths into your belly.
That's actually a good one. I'm definitely going to try that now whenever I'm going through that. But like real quick
Yes, do.
before we run out, but like why should domestic violence be talked about? Like why is this so important to be kind of like honest about it, be talked?
So anytime that I've spoken at events for people who have either been in domestic violent relationships or who have seen violence, or maybe they are in a toxic, unhealthy relationship, it's important to note that maybe you are in a toxic and unhealthy relationship and you don't even know. Maybe your friend is in a toxic and unhealthy relationship and you don't even know. And I think the awareness and to talk about, hey, is that person treating you right? Maybe you could just ask your friend, be that advocate for your friend, because sometimes it's so hard for you to see it if you're actually in it. And sometimes we're so afraid to let people in because we're afraid of being judged. We're afraid of not being accepted. We're afraid of not being liked, that we
Mm-hmm.
hold that secret in. And that's why it is so important to, if you're suspecting something in a friend, pull them aside, say, hey, I'm noticing something. I'm noticing that you're not coming out with us anymore. I'm noticing that, when you're around this person, you act a little bit different. When you're around this person, you don't act like how you and I act. And these are kind of the red flags, to be able to encourage that person to share what they're actually feeling, because you might actually save them from being in an unhealthy and a toxic relationship.
So true. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know we're running out of time a bit, but I just want to thank you so much for coming on time and taking the time to come on. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad we got the chance to do this. I know it's been a long time coming. So this thank you so much for coming on, and you're such an inspiration, and this thank you for taking the time and keep doing what you're doing. You're doing amazing.
Thank you so much, love. I appreciate you.
Of course, you too. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.